Hi everyone, it's Paul Tilley and welcome back to MR2200 Retailing. In this unit, we're looking at buyer behavior and why people buy what they buy. Effectively, that is the basic question posed here. What influences what people buy? We're going to look at it in more detail. Specifically, we're going to distinguish between major shopping motives of customers. We're going to define and list the components of consumer decision making. We're going to list and identify the influences on consumer decision making. We're going to describe the social influences on behavior. We're going to talk about how we get customers in store, such as using things like lifestyle merchandising. And we're going to construct a retail profile of a customer. This is covered in textbook in Chapter 3, Customer Buying Behavior, and it's covered in Unit 2 of the course. So please take a look at that. Overall, when we think about consumer buying, we're talking about the purchase process and what drives someone to go through the purchase process, to carry it through, to buy that product from that retailer at that point in time, in that color, with all of the permutations. So we're looking at the characteristics of the buyer, and we're looking at what is it that really drives the buyer. There's lots of decisions that buyers make whenever they make it, they actually carry through with a buying decision. It's affected by lots of factors, be it internal factors or external factors. People look internally to say, I like red, so I'm buying red, or externally, this store is close, so I'm going to buy it here. As well, retail purchase decisions can be analyzed by segmenting the market. Basically, what we do is we look for groups of people that act the same way. Instead of looking at every individual, which is challenging to do, we group people together, similar types of people who will respond similarly to a given type of marketing action. And we ask, what makes those group of people tick? What is it that would register with them in terms of the buying process? We're also going to explain in greater detail the many concepts that we'd really talked about in first year marketing. Now, if you want to think about a good example of how purchase decision process has been influenced, COVID-19 is a classic example of something has really come on in the external environment and the things that it has done to buyer behavior. If we think about tourism and we talk about tourism marketing, now that's not really a business in itself, but it comprises of many businesses. In fact, the tourism industry in Newfoundland and Labrador is worth about $1 billion a year. It's a big business with lots of retailers. The provincial government has put together a new tourism strategy. It's called Transition, Transform, and Thrive, a tourism vision strategy for Newfoundland and Labrador. It's a 5-year strategy, and it really is looking at what are we going to do in order to pull out of this COVID-19 pandemic. One of the key things that is noted in the document, which I've linked here, is it is predicted that the industry will see more frictionless travel supported by enhanced technology, an emphasis on more domestic travel, and some travelers remaining uneasy with traveling away from home. There's going to be a shift to more responsible travel with social environmental focus. We're going to see industry experts predicting greater interest in the well-being of communities and residents and destinations and less focus on visitation growth as the main goal of tourism. There's also a greater consumer interest in indigenous tourism, outdoor and nature-based activities, experiential type tourism, health and well-being. We're seeing a lot more affluent and retired travel, and we're seeing an opportunity to remotely work. These are going to be big influences on what happens to the future of the tourism industry. And these are what are going to affect the consumer purchase decision process when they're thinking about tourism travel to Newfoundland and Labrador. Take a look at that report and you will see the themes that we talk about in this section echoed within that report. So the first thing we're going to do is look at objective number 1, which is distinguish between the major shopping motives of consumers. So what is it that causes a consumer to shop? Again, we're talking about COVID-19, and really since 2019, 2020, we've been absolutely engaged in this process. It's been a turbulent time for humanity, a turbulent time for retail. Retailers have dealt with delay in supply chains, interruptions, closures of their operations, push towards digitization, online sales, for example. And that's really changed consumer behavior. Consumers are motivated by a whole bunch of things that go beyond just price. Now we're looking for things like health and safety, service, personal care, easy convenience, product origin, where it comes from, trust, and reputation, especially in the online world. These are all factors that are changing consumer behavior. The Retail Council of Canada, Retail Insider, a magazine, published some of the key influencers on consumer purchases coming out of COVID-19. Personal care and support. Canadian customers expect brands to engage with and understand their needs and objectives. And that's changed a lot since COVID-19. And we need to think about, retailers need to think, what are our needs as consumers? Ease and convenience. Canadian consumers want new, fast, and flexible delivery options such as click and connect or curbside pickup. Trust and reputation have become even more important. Canadian consumers have demonstrated that many would be willing to pay more if they had a higher degree of trust. So building intrinsic positive trust is important for retailers. And rebuilding relevance. Consumer views extend well beyond the product or service offered. Retailers now differentiate a brand from their competitors by developing an intrinsic purpose that can drive growth. This gives value to people not only at the present, but in their lives and into the future. If we can make our products valuable in the long run, more consumers will buy them. The second learning objective looks at defining the list of components of the consumer purchase decision process. When we think about the consumer purchase decision process, you've probably seen that before in first-year marketing. It goes through a series of stages. First, there's a recognition of a need. Something has disrupted the customer's life. They don't have something. They feel they need something. They've encountered a problem. The consumer is then going to go out and look for information in order to help resolve that. What are some of the options available? This preliminary information search leads to a bunch of options, and then we evaluate, as consumers, we evaluate each of those options, say which is best for us. So this evaluation of the alternatives. We narrow down that buying situations, we narrow it down, and we finally make a purchase decision. We make the purchase decision, we buy the product, and then we're going to have some thoughts on the product once we've got it. Did it meet our needs? Our expectations are at a certain level. Did it meet those expectations? Did it fall below them? Did it rise above them? What are the implications for that for the manufacturer of the product, the retailer of the product? What are the implications for the consumer? So we need to be absolutely aware of the consumer purchase decision process. And this particular slide here, I have it very well laid out in terms of what each of the stages entail. The problem recognition, we perceive the need. Could be something like an empty milk carton, right? We need milk. The information search, where do we get that information to? Do we search internally? Oh, I bought that before, I'm going to buy that again. Or do we search externally? We go out and look at a website, a magazine or something, and we see an ad for a product that, hey, that might meet our need. Or we look at our friends or neighbors, or other people that we're familiar with. Again, external searches. From an evaluation of alternatives, we need to assess all that information we've gathered, be it internal, external, and that's going to narrow down the list. And this is what we call the period where we get a more concise list, an evoked set. So we have to apply some criteria in order to bring us down to that evoked set. That evoked set is then going to narrow down our options to this would be acceptable and that would be acceptable. We make a decision based on whatever one is the most acceptable. So this purchase decision means we select an alternative. So things like sales, store atmosphere, financial circumstances all make a difference to what we're going to purchase. Finally, we have that post-purchase evaluation, and after purchase, we need to think about the product. Did it live up to our expectation? If it didn't, we encounter something called cognitive dissonance. That is, we're kicking ourselves because we bought the product, we thought it would provide help for us, it didn't. And that makes us feel bad. So consumers don't like cognitive dissonance, and nor do retailers, because the consumer wasn't happy with the purchase. If they're not happy, they're probably not going to return to purchase another at some point in time. If we look at our consumer purchase decisions too, depending on how important the product is will really define how much we get into this purchase decision process. Routine problems like, oh, I got to buy some more toothpaste. We buy toothpaste all the time. We usually buy the same brand. It doesn't take a lot of thought. Do we go through an intensive search for that? No. So routine problem solving is for products that we buy commonly, we don't put a lot of thought into, very low risk in, usually at a relatively low price. Some products we don't buy as often or are a little more complex or have a little bit more risk. We do a little bit of research on them. Not a great deal, but a little bit. And we make a decision based on that little bit of research. That's called a limited problem solving situation. A lot of the larger products we buy would be for that. If you're buying a new coffee and end table, that sort of thing would be fairly limited. Now, if you're buying a house, a car, a new airplane, something really expensive, a particular type of product that is unique and something that not a lot of people are familiar with, then you get into what's called extended problem solving. Here, we do an extensive review of the entire purchase decision process. We go through it tooth and nail. We do a lot of research. We develop an evoke set. We weigh out all the alternatives. We make a purchase, and if that purchase works out great for us, we're happy. But if it doesn't work out, we're really unhappy because we'll have a great deal of cognitive dissonance with this extended problem-solving situation if it doesn't work out. So now let's turn our attention to the types of consumer buying decisions. And let's look at the situation that we find ourselves in first. What is going on in our situation that could affect our ability to carry through with the purchase decision process? Well, first of all, the purchase task. Man, if it's really hard to buy this product, there's a big line up, takes a lot of time, the website is not helpful, the task becomes so great that we might say, shag it, not going to bother with it. If we're amongst friends and we're all there and we're all having a good time, it's much easier to buy stuff than being there alone, by yourself, not really familiar with the situation, not sure, no one to bounce ideas off. That's going to affect the purchase decision process. If we look at the physical surroundings, if it's a loud, noisy store, you're probably not going to buy much in there. If it's a nice, relaxing store or a place that you feel comfortable in, yeah, you're probably going to be much more willing to carry out your purchase. Temporal effects means time of day. Are you in a hurry? Is it supper time? Are you hungry? Are you in a rush? Have you got lots of time? Is it nice and relaxing? Is it fast-paced? Those are going to have an impact. Or especially if they come up and say the store is closing right now. It forces you to make a decision. We also got antecedent states. And antecedent states really do with our mood. Is our mood conducive to purchasing? Are we really at the stage where we're in a good enough mood to buy something? Do we have the cash? Do we have the time? Do we have all of the things lined up to make us feel good enough about making this purchase? From a psychological point of view, too, there's a lot of what I call internal psychological influences. How motivated are we? Are we motivated? We talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs there. Do we have the basic requirements in order to be motivated? Do we have our basic needs met? Are we moving into an area that will help us achieve a next level need? Our personality. Is what we're buying consistent with our personality? If I'm buying a wonky, freaky shirt and I'm not a wonky, freaky person, I'm probably not going to buy that shirt. How do you feel you're going to be perceived? Are people going to accept this product you're buying? If you're buying a loud suit and you think everyone's going to laugh at you, you interpret that as a reason not to buy the product. Perceived risk. You're buying it for your girlfriend, your wife, and you don't know if it's going to fit her, or these sorts of things. That's a bit of anxiety that's going to come up in your mind that's going to affect your purchase decision process. Learn behavior. If I bought the product before and it's worked really well for me, I've learned that it's a good idea to buy that product because it's worked out well for me before. The converse is also true. If it hasn't worked out for me, I've learned that it's probably not a good idea to purchase this. My attitudes, beliefs, values. Does this product match with my attitudes, beliefs, and values? If it does, it helps me make a positive decision. If it doesn't, it certainly says, no, don't buy that product. Various lifestyle factors, too, can affect, where you are in your life. If I'm a teenager, I'm going to be buying teenage stuff. If I'm retired, I'm going to be buying retired stuff. Not everyone's going to buy the same thing throughout their lifetime. Their needs change, their lifestyle changes, and that's going to influence the purchase decision process. In terms of learning objective number 4, the social influences on behavior, we're looking at what are other people really having an effect on you? How are the people in your life affecting your purchase behavior? Think about personal influences. Are we influenced by the people around us? The answer is yes, we certainly are. How much do they influence? That varies with different people. Opinion leaders can influence. We know on social media, for example, the influencers out there on LinkedIn or on Instagram or on Twitter, they have an ability, or on Facebook, they have an ability to sway people in terms of their decision making. Word of mouth is still a powerful tool. It's low tech, but very, very valuable. Our reference groups, who we look at, who are the people in our lives, the groups of people we belong or aspire to belong to, are going to influence us in our purchase decisions. Our family are certainly a huge influence. They influence us in terms of where we are in our life cycle as a family. Are we older, younger, these sorts of things. The family decision-making process. Some families are very detailed with regards to their decision-making. Others not so much, more flighty. The social class you live in. How well off you are. Persons with a certain social class exhibit similar behavior. I'm going to buy a BMW because my social class says I need a BMW. That sort of thing. Culture and subculture is also going to play. The culture we live in, the Newfoundlander and Vienna sausages or Bologna, that sort of thing influence purchase decisions as well. Learning objective number 5 looks at getting customers into the store, lifestyle merchandising. And when we think about lifestyle merchandising, we're really thinking about how do we manage the 4 Ps, the product, the price, the place, and the promotion in such a way that it draws people into the store. So people will naturally look to places that made up or match their psychological groups, as we've just talked about. What their aspirations, their reference groups, all these things influence them. Ideally, to maximize consumer value, the retailer could determine the needs of every individual customer and supply them with the solution that they need. This might be possible, but it could mean a lot of cost and time and effort for not a lot of reward. So because of this, and coupled with the need to maximize profits or minimize expense, maximize shareholder value, most organizations do the next best thing. They place prospective buyers in groups called segments. And these people have common needs and respond similarly to a group of marketing actions. This is known as market segmentation. By selecting one or a few segments to target their sales, retailers can channel their scarce resources. What we do is tend to group people into what's called segments. And segmenting says, okay, we clump people with similar needs and who will respond to similar marketing actions into groups. And we can think about in terms of the product features, the quality, the savings of time, these sorts of things that would be a market need that those people have. We could think about how we can adjust the price, the product, place to match what they exactly. So market segmentation is all about channeling scarce resources. By selecting one or a few targets, retailers can channel their scarce resources more effectively and meet the segment needs more efficiently. So segmenting does a good job at increasing sales, increasing profits, and increasing return on investment. It just makes better sense. So we can do segmenting by selling a single product to a group, or we can make different products for different groups. We can individualize it to the point that every segment gets a slightly different product. So what are some of the basic steps we need in order to segment our markets? Well, first of all, we got to form prospective buyers into segments. So we got to take a look at all of our buyers, the pool, and say, okay, let's clump the ones together that we think would respond similarly. And let's look at each of those clumps. Some of them are going to be bigger than others. We need to look at it and say, which ones will be the most profitable? Let's focus on the profitable ones. The ones that are less profitable, we will not focus on them as much. So we make a concerted effort to go after a certain group of customers, a target market. Now, if it's feasible, we reach all of them. If it's not feasible, we just focus on servicing the ones that we think are valuable. There's different types of segments out there. We can segment geographically. by region, country, and so on. We can segment demographically by age, gender, income, these sorts of things. We can segment by psychographics, so we can think about their social class or their personality or these sorts of things, lifestyle. Or we can segment by their behavior, what they actually do. Do they use it a lot? Do they use it a little bit? Are they professionals? Are they recreation? What is the group? Then the second major step is to form the product into the groups to be sold. So we take our product offer and we figure, okay, this product is going to be focused on this group. This product is going to be focused on that group. And then we say, okay, let's match it up with the groups. The third step is really to develop this market product grid. So we put basically, here is the products we offer. Here's the segment that we're offering them to. Let's find out the ones that create the best fit, meaning the market combination of product and segment that works best. So we actually take the marketing actions. We go into the market, we compete either head-on-head, direct competition with our competitors, or we try to differentiate our product somehow or another. Learning objective 6 is to construct a retail customer profile. And at this stage, really what we need to do is think about, let's make a picture or paint a picture of our customer. So we got to ask some basic questions here. What's the characteristic of our target audience? What motivates that audience? Where does the target audience live? What type of messaging does the ideal customer engage with? What does the target audience interact with in terms of businesses like mine? What do they want? What products and services do the target market buy? What kind of purchasing journey matters to the audience? What types of advertising works best? What types of content is ideal? As we've said before, we look at this customer profile and we say we can either do it demographically, geographically, psychographically, and so on. So that is a quick summary of that unit. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks for joining us here today. I appreciate your time.